Have you ever walked into a room and been made to feel like you didn't belong, not because of anything you said or did, but simply because of the way you looked? That's exactly what happened on a Tuesday morning in October, in the gleaming lobby of Hargrove Financial Group's Toronto headquarters, to a woman named Serena Obi. Serena was 43 years old. She wore a charcoal wool coat that had seen better days. The lining was fraying at one cuff, and the buttons were mismatched, two of them replaced years ago with ones that were close but not quite right. She carried a canvas tote bag, the kind you get free at a farmer's market, not a briefcase. Her hair was natural, pulled back simply. She walked slowly, not because she was uncertain, but because she had learned long ago that there was no rush worth having. She had a calm about her that some people mistake for vacancy, and others, the sharper ones, eventually recognize as depth. She pushed through the revolving door at 9:14 in the morning. The lobby of Hargrove Financial Group was the kind of space designed to make you feel small if you weren't supposed to be there. 40-foot ceilings. A waterfall feature along the north wall that made a sound like permanent rain. The floors were pale limestone, polished to a mirror finish, and your footsteps echoed whether you wanted them to or not. The reception desk was a long arc of white marble, staffed by two people, a young man with a headset who was already on a call, and a woman in her late 20s named Cassandra Blythe. Cassandra Blythe had been at that desk for 11 months. She wore her dark hair in a sleek low bun, and her blazer was pressed with military precision. She took her job seriously, the right way to answer phones, the correct way to greet visitors, the protocol for escorting guests to the elevator bay. She had memorized all of it. What she had not memorized, or perhaps had never been taught, was that the weight of a person cannot be read from the fabric of their coat. Serena approached the desk. "Good morning," she said. Cassandra looked up. Her eyes moved quickly. Coat, bag, hair, shoes, and something settled into her expression. Not rudeness exactly, not yet. More like a recalibration, a quiet decision being made. "Can I help you?" she said in the tone of someone who doesn't expect the answer to be interesting. "I'm here for a 9:30, Serena said. "I believe it's in the Maple Conference Suite, 16th floor." Cassandra tapped at her keyboard without urgency. Name, Serena Obi, longer than necessary. Cassandra scrolled, or appeared to scroll, then looked up with an expression of practiced regret. "I'm not seeing anything under that name. It may be listed under Obi Capital," Serena said. "Or possibly under the name Fletcher. That's who I'm meeting with." "Thomas Fletcher?" "Yes." Cassandra typed again. Her jaw shifted slightly. "I do see a 9:30 with Mr. Fletcher, but it's a private meeting. Invitation only." Serena waited a moment. "I know," she said. "I was invited." "By whom?" "By Thomas Fletcher." There was a beat of silence between them. The waterfall behind the desk filled it with its constant sound. "Do you have some form of identification? A business card, perhaps?" Serena reached into the canvas tote. She produced a slim leather wallet and opened it to her driver's license. She held it out. Cassandra glanced at it briefly. The way you glance at something you've already decided doesn't matter. "I'm going to need to verify this with Mr. Fletcher's assistant," Cassandra said. "If you could just take a seat." She gestured toward a cluster of chairs near the window, far enough from the desk to feel like a dismissal. "I'll check and see if you're expected." "Of course," Serena said. She sat. She set the canvas tote on the floor beside her and folded her hands in her lap. She looked out through the tall windows at the street below, at the October light falling thin and golden between the buildings, and her expression did not change at all. This is the thing about people who have endured a great deal of quiet condescension in their lives. They know how to wait in a way that costs them nothing. 3 minutes passed. 4. Cassandra had not made a call. She was speaking in low tones with the young man beside her, who glanced once in Serena's direction and then looked away. At the 5-minute mark, a security officer appeared from the corridor beside the elevator bank. His name badge said R. Guthrie. He was broad-shouldered and walked with the particular flatness of someone who has done this before and isn't proud of it. He stopped in front of Serena. "Ma'am, the receptionist has indicated you may not have an appointment with anyone in the building today. I'm going to have to ask you." "I have an appointment," Serena said. Her voice was level, not cold, not defensive, simply certain. "I understand, but we have a protocol. Has anyone called Mr. Fletcher's office?" "The receptionist is working to." "Has anyone called?" Guthrie paused. He had not been asked a question, exactly. He had been stopped in a kind of verbal doorway and found he couldn't pass through it cleanly. "I'll follow up with the desk," he said, and turned back. And here is where things changed. Because Serena, in the quiet of that chair, unzipped the front pocket of the canvas tote. She took out her phone and made a call of her own. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't look around the lobby for witnesses. She simply said, when someone picked up, "Hi, it's me. I'm downstairs. I seem to be having a bit of trouble getting through. Could you call down?" Then she hung up. 40 seconds later, the phone at the reception desk rang. Cassandra answered it. And whatever she heard on the other end of that line, you could see it happen. The slow draining of certainty from her face, the way her chin came up and then down and then up again, the slight parting of her lips. It was not what she had expected to hear. She placed the receiver down and looked across the lobby at Serena Obi. And then she looked away, because she didn't know what to do with what she was feeling. What happened next came from the elevator. Not from the corridor, not from a staircase, but from the elevator that opened directly beside the reception desk. The executive elevator, the one with the brushed bronze doors that were always closed unless someone on the upper floors had sent it specifically. The doors slid apart and two men stepped out almost at a run. The first was Thomas Fletcher, 51, managing director of Hargrove's Western Portfolio Division. His jacket was unbuttoned. He had clearly left a room mid-sentence. The second was a man Cassandra had seen every day for 11 months, a man whose photo was in the lobby directory behind glass, the man whose name was on the letterhead of every piece of internal correspondence she had ever filed. Edmund Hargrove, Jr., 63, chairman of Hargrove Financial Group. Edmund Hargrove walked with the measured speed of someone who is genuinely alarmed but has spent 60 years not letting it show. He crossed the lobby in 8 strides and reached Serena Obi before she had fully risen from her chair. "Serena," he said, "I owe you a profound apology." She looked up at him. "Edmund, don't worry about it." "No," he said. "No, this is not acceptable." He turned, and the quality of his attention, when it swung to the reception desk, was something that Cassandra Blythe felt physically. A drop in the temperature of the room, or something like it. Who made the decision to seat Ms. Obi in the waiting area and send security? The young man with the headset had suddenly found the surface of his desk very interesting. Cassandra said nothing. "Mrs. Blythe," Hargrove said. He knew her name. He knew everyone's name, which was one of the things people forgot about him. "Did you verify this guest's appointment before you asked her to wait?" "I was," Cassandra started. There was a question about whether yes or no. The waterfall made it sound. "No," Cassandra said. Thomas Fletcher had been standing slightly behind Hargrove, and now he spoke. "Serena chairs the investment committee that approved our northern expansion last year. She's been a strategic partner of this firm for over a decade." He said it without heat, which somehow made it worse. Facts presented as facts, without the mercy of emotion to soften them. Cassandra looked at Serena Obi, at the fraying coat, at the canvas tote bag on the floor. Serena had risen fully now and was pulling the strap of the bag over her shoulder. She was not looking at Cassandra with triumph. She was not looking at her with anger. She was looking at her the way you look at something you've seen before and found quietly sad. "You don't need to explain further," Serena said, to Fletcher, to Hargrove, to the room. "I'd rather just get upstairs." Edmund Hargrove nodded. He gestured toward the elevator and fell into step beside her. Before they reached the bronze doors, Serena paused. She turned. She looked directly at Cassandra Blythe. She said, "You didn't need to know my name or what I do. You just needed to treat me like a person." She wasn't sharp about it. She wasn't performing. She said it the way you say something that has simply always been true. That's it. That's all it was. The elevator doors opened. She stepped in. Edmund Hargrove followed. The doors closed. The lobby was very quiet for a moment. Then Guthrie, the security officer, cleared his throat softly and walked back to his post. And Cassandra Blythe sat behind the marble desk, in her precisely pressed blazer, and stared at the surface in front of her. The young man beside her said nothing. There was nothing to say. What happened to Cassandra Blythe after that Tuesday morning is a matter of company record, and it proceeded the way these things tend to. She was called into a meeting with Human Resources that afternoon. Her manager, a quiet and methodical woman named Diane, sat across from her with a folder on the table between them and explained the terms of a review period. Cassandra didn't lose her job that day, but she felt the full weight of what she had done. Not the policy violation, not the professional breach, but the simpler, harder thing. She had looked at a woman and decided in the space of 30 seconds that she was not worth basic courtesy. She had been wrong. She had been wrong in a way that people don't usually admit to easily, and whether Cassandra Blythe eventually reckoned with that, I can't tell you. Some people do. Some people carry a moment like that around for years before they understand it. Some never do. Serena Obi, for her part, chaired the 9:30 meeting with characteristic efficiency. She had notes. She had questions. She had, in the canvas tote that Cassandra had mentally dismissed, a folder of documents that represented $400 million in structured investment across 3 Northern Ontario infrastructure projects. When the meeting ended at 11:15, she shook hands with everyone in the room, declined the offer of a car service, and took the elevator back down to the lobby. She walked through the revolving door. October caught her at the threshold, that particular Canadian October that smells like wet leaves and wood smoke, and the last of the warmth before the cold arrives and means it. She stood on the sidewalk for a moment, just standing, the way people do when they've been in a room of recycled air for too long. Then she walked to her car, which was a 7-year-old Subaru with a cracked mud flap on the rear left wheel, and she got in and drove north toward home. I want to tell you something about what it means to carry quiet dignity into rooms that weren't prepared to receive it. There's a particular exhaustion that comes with being the kind of person who is consistently underestimated. Not a dramatic exhaustion, not the kind that announces itself. A low-grade weariness that you learn to set down at the door of every room you enter, because you can't do the work you came to do if you carry it with you. Serena Obi had been setting it down at doors for 20 years, long before she chaired investment committees. Before she built Obi Capital from a two-person consulting practice run out of her apartment in Brampton into what it became. Long before any of that, she had been the woman in the coat that didn't look like money, standing in rooms designed to tell her she didn't belong. She had stopped letting those rooms decide. But that's the invisible part, isn't it? The years before, the practice of it. The decision, made quietly and repeatedly and without applause, to walk through the door anyway. What Cassandra Blythe saw on that Tuesday morning was a woman in a worn coat with a canvas bag. What she failed to see was 20 years of not quitting, of being told no in small and large ways, and treating each no as information rather than instruction. You don't see those years. You can't, from behind a marble desk. That's what made the difference between Cassandra and Edmund Hargrove, actually. Not their job titles. Edmund had long ago stopped looking at how people arrived and started paying attention to whether they showed up. There's a difference between those two things. Showing up, the deeper kind, has nothing to do with what you're wearing when you walk through the door. It's a strange thing to watch, as an outside observer, the exact moment a person realizes they've made a mistake that size. Cassandra's expression in the lobby, when Hargrove stepped off that elevator, it's the kind of thing I think about. That specific rearrangement of features, the recalculation happening in real time. What is this woman worth? What is she really? And how terrible, how genuinely sad that those were the questions being asked at all. Because here's what I think about when I think about Serena Obi standing in that lobby. I think about every person who walks into a room in a coat that's seen better days and doesn't have a Thomas Fletcher to come running off an elevator on their behalf. The people who get turned away and stay turned away. The people for whom there is no bronze elevator, no corporate correction, no Edmund Hargrove who happens to be upstairs. Those people deserve the same courtesy. That's what Serena said, and she was right. You didn't need to know who she was. You just needed to be decent. You needed to extend to a stranger who walked through your door the basic assumption of worth that every person carries, regardless of what their coat looks like. We forget that sometimes. Or maybe we don't forget it so much as we never quite believed it in the first place. I'm going to ask you something, and I'd like you to think about it honestly. Have you ever been Cassandra Blythe? Not in a lobby, maybe. Not at a reception desk. But have you ever looked at someone across a counter, in a waiting room, in a meeting, on the street, and made a calculation? Have you ever let the wrong information do the deciding? The coat, the bag, the car, the accent, the hair? Most of us have. That's the uncomfortable truth sitting underneath this story. The Cassandra Blythes of the world are not a separate species. They are people who made, in a moment they weren't prepared for, the error that any of us might make if we stopped paying attention, if we let our assumptions get there before we did. The question isn't whether you've ever done it. The question is whether, the next time a door opens and someone walks through it who doesn't look the way you expected, you remember this. Whether you let yourself be surprised. Whether you choose decency before you know if it's worth anything, because that, and only that, is how you find out who you actually are.